Get in. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's let it rip. We are starting this debate right now. Grab your seats, everybody. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Hey, hello, and welcome to the Runoff rematch, a live event where people are walking in front of the camera. We're in great shape. Okay, my name is Trace Savage. This is a debate for who's going to be the next mayor of Edmond. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm the editor-in-chief of NonDoc.com. We're an independent online journalism publication. We operate our Edmond Civic Reporting Project, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Matt McCabe of News 9.
And we're here at the wonderful KickingBird Event Center with Mark Nash and Tom Robbins, who finished away a four-way primary election in February. Thank you both for believing in the value of public discussion and debates on important topics.
Give them a round of applause. I want to thank the folks here at KickingBird for all of their incredible helpfulness and everything they've done to help us make this possible. Kenny, thank you for all the AV assistance if you're listening. Deidre, Jordan, thank you. Folks with the Lookout have been wonderful. The Lookout Bar and Restaurant in this facility is open until 9 p.m., so take advantage of that and make sure to tip well. Remember, it doesn't cost a lot to have a little bit of class, okay? Speaking of cost, it did cost a little money to put on tonight's debate. I want to thank the sponsors of the entire NonDoc 2025 public debate series. That's AARP Oklahoma, the Scholar Strategy Network, and the Oklahoma District Council of the Urban Land Institute. Thank you for believing in public debates.
And since we are streaming on news9.com and Facebook, now is a good time to either share that live stream with folks who cannot be here today, but if you are here with us today, please, for the sake of our audio, go ahead and silence your cell phones.
That would be great, and I want to say this too. Please hold your applause till we're done with each of the 3 rounds of questions. We want people to be able to hear at home if there are disruptions. We will have security have you leave. I'll clear this whole room, and it'll just be the 4 of us up here talking. We don't need to do that. I think we can have a positive civic discussion in this great community. So with that, here's the format. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening statements. Then we'll have 3 rounds of questions, and we'll conclude with 2-minute closing statements. We flipped a coin earlier, and Mr. Robbins broke his streak and won the coin flip. He chose to go last in opening and in closing. Without further ado, Mr. Nash, 2 minutes to you. You can walk around. You can do whatever. We've got cameras back there to track you around. 2 minutes to you, sir, for your opening statement.
I am very happy sitting right here.
I understand.
So I moved to Edmond 35 years ago. Me and my wife bought our first home on the west side of town, started a family. In 2000, we built a house on the east side of town, east of the interstate. Our 2 girls graduated from Edmond Memorial. One of them is now a school teacher. She is on the staff at Edmond Memorial. I've got 4 grandkids. They love playing in the parks here, especially Stevenson Park. You get them on that space station slide and you can't get them off. I got into this race simply because I looked at what was happening in the city of Edmond. We had a GO bond issue that came up last November. I was very vocal against the bond issue. I thought the whole plan was just full of incompetent thoughts, processes. I mean, $231 million, too much, too fast, without taking into consideration what the people of Edmond want. Well, if you're going to oppose it, you better be ready to stand up and help fix it. And when it failed, I had people saying, okay, Mark, you've got the experience. You spent 10 years working for the state of Oklahoma. I started out as a management auditor for the legislature. I spent 3 years as a Senate fiscal analyst working on budgets when the state had no money. We had to figure out how to fund as revenue was declining. And then I became director of finance at the Department of Public Safety, trying to fund the Highway Patrol, Lake Patrol, when we were literally had no money at all. I know how to do it. I got into the race because I know how to stem the problems we have financially in Edmond, and I'm ready to go to work for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You go ahead, sure, for your opening statements only. We'll do that. Mr. Robbins, 2 minutes to you, opening statement.
Well, thank you.
Hit that There you
All
go.
right, there we go. Well, thank you. You know, this will be the last time I think we're together, Mark and I. I said, hey, when you win, I'm going to call and congratulate you, but don't be offended. I don't want to see you for a month. And I think he said, hey, if you win, I'll call and congratulate you, but don't be offended. I don't want to see you for 2 months. It does take a lot, and I want to thank my family in particular. It's something special to, you know, to have your kiddos out there and knocking doors and have people look at them and say, well, why should I vote for your dad? And so, being this is the last time, and so many of you have come here, I want to be able to not speak from notes, but from the heart today. Because really the reason why we're running, and I say that we because it's a commitment of our family, is because Edmond has our heart. And when we came here because we wanted a place to call home. We wanted people that would support us, that would nurture our kids at school, at church, that would give opportunities. And I see so many of the faces here today from all those different places from across Edmond. And I also see friends that I've gotten to know since I had the honor to serve on city council, to be able to work on getting information, on being responsive. So I'm proud to be able to put my hat in the ring. I look forward to putting my heart and all my energy into serving you as the next mayor. I'm proud to have the support of our first responder families who serve and protect Edmond, our police and fire associations, our Oklahoma County Sheriff. I'm proud to have so many people that I've been able to work with who trust me to work on education, transportation, public safety, and recreation as we modernize our budget and work together for a better Edmond, Oklahoma. Thank you so much.
Wonderful job with the applause. Save it till the end of round one. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to get to our first round of questions. It's called Priorities and Perspectives tonight, and because the two of you have done so many events together and answered so many questions, we wanted to start with a change of pace, a toss-up question, and you're maybe going to like this. You'll have 30 seconds to answer each. Either of you can start. We're here at this beautiful KickingBird golf course, and it got me thinking of fun and games and leisure activities, and I'm curious to start a conversation on something not so serious. Imagine that you had an opportunity to win $1 million, and you had to defeat the other three of us on the stage tonight in one game of skill. Any competition it could be. It could be golf, it could be anything. For example, I would pick horseshoes. I think I could beat the three of you in horseshoes. Matt would pick basketball. What are you picking?
One day it'll be pickleball, but as my wife knows, we like to go on pickleball dates. And I just want to beat her one day because I don't think it's happened yet. But we have some great pickleball just right outside. And so I think if I had a sport to play, we love having pickleball dates. And then we usually go to Boomtown Creamery, and I put any calorie loss to shame and go get a flat ice cream.
Okay, so she's winning the $1 million on the pickleball. Mr. Nash.
Well, since Tom says he's not there yet with pickleball, I should say pickleball, right? But I could also say backgammon. I could also say horseshoes.
Oh.
So yeah, Trace, we can go head to head even.
I like this idea. EC Hafer Park has some beautiful horseshoe pits. For that, we're going to go to our first full round of questions, 90-second answers each to both of you. Matt, you've got the first question for Mr. Nash.
That's right. So this first question is, you both have debated with us before. As you think about how that debate went, what is the most important takeaway you believe voters should have taken out of that first debate? Mr. Robbins, we're going to start with you for 90 seconds.
Well, one is I'm running on a record of delivering results on behalf of the citizens of Edmond. And so to give you some examples of that is when I found out that there was a slumlord for over 10 years taking advantage of our veterans, everyone goes by the VFW Hall and the American Legion asking for support when they run. But when they told me what was going on there, and it was filthy and disgusting, I went as far as Washington, D.C. on my own dime to go talk to the Undersecretary of HUD and to do everything in my power to shut that down. And so I don't always get it right. My wife, she's a marriage and family therapist, so I know I always don't get it right. But what I do is I try my best, I listen, and I'm very responsive. And that's just one example. We're working, I was able to identify a problem and to be able to help Edmond be a better place to call home and fight for our veterans who have fought for us. So I think the takeaway for me would be is Tom is somebody with experience. He understands issues. He's accountable, he follows up, and he has a record of being able to deliver on behalf of the people of Edmond. Thank you.
And Mr. Nash, same question to you, sir. What do you believe the biggest takeaway is for voters from your previous debates together? 90 seconds.
So the biggest takeaway, I think, was exactly what myself and David Hornbeek talked about during that first debate. It's about the money. It's about future sales tax revenue. It's about how the city is spending that money. When you have a GO bond issue that's floated out there and it's defeated, what are you going to do in the future? Well, all we have is sales tax here. We've got sales tax, and then we've got fees, fines, and other things that we charge the public for. We've got to make sure that we know what we're doing, because when you make the mistakes that were made with the GO bond issue, we're not going to be able to bring that up for maybe 8 or 10 more years, if that's a reason we need to go back after it. So how are we going to fund city government until then? It is about the funding. It is about the financial health of our city.
Great, and we did slightly mess up that order, so this question is going to also start with Mr. Robbins. I apologize, but you'll see why. You previously represented Ward 1 on the Edmond City Council, and so I'm curious, in your opinion, what's the biggest problem or issue with the current city council in Edmond, either in terms of its priorities, a perspective that might be missing, or how the body operates? Where can the council improve?
So there's a lot of things that I learned as a new city councilman, and there's a lot of things that I received as feedback. One of the things as I've knocked the doors of my neighbors and have talked to them about the opportunities and challenges for Edmond, there's been a general feeling that things, as busy as they are in life, are happening to people instead of for and with them. That's why I'm so conscientious about communicating, and even without not having a daily paper, being very responsive to everybody who reaches out or posting things online, which can definitely be uncomfortable as far as getting out information and doing those things. And so really, for me, it's being a mayor that's available, that's engageable. Look, I'm not somebody who has all the answers. I'm not going to present myself as somebody who's got every arrow in the quiver. But I've attacked problems with stakeholders because I know how to build a coalition to be able to get things done. And so really, as a new member of City Council, what I have done is built a reputation of being accessible, being engageable, and I want to be a leader of Edmond that my boys can be proud of and that our city can be proud of. I'm not going to focus on national issues. That's a dumpster fire, quite frankly. I'm going to wake up every day and say, how can we win for Edmond, Oklahoma?
Thank you very much. Mr. Nash, same question to you. What is the biggest thing as you watch the Edmond City Council that you think could be improved?
Communication. We need our council to communicate more with the public. We need them to understand what people's concerns are, what their issues are. It's a tough job being on the council. I don't blame anybody on the council for anything that has happened, but we could do a better job of communicating what's going on. And a lot of that, I'll be honest with you, it starts with regaining the citizens' trust. And a big piece of that is there is so much distrust about the finances. They say that the way we show our budget, the way we use transfers in and transfers out, looks like we're playing shell games. And I know that our council members are not out there just shuffling money around to do whatever they can. They have a plan, they're working on it, but better communication, I think, would take us a lot further.
Thank you very much. Matt, you have the next question.
Thank you. In this order, we are going to get right, Mr. Nash. We're starting with you for this question. Last summer, the Edmond City Council voted 4-1 to deny a wastewater agreement that would have made Edmond service the wastewater needs of Logan County's Rural Water District 1. And while Edmond currently has similar wastewater treatment agreements with the town of Arcadia, and that 40-year agreement would have brought in $2.5 million to $5 million annually in revenue, members of the Edmond Alliance raised concerns it could encourage development north of Edmond city limits and lead to sales tax leakage. The question is, with the city still seeking new revenue streams, but also battling lower than expected sales tax collections, would you support that Logan County agreement today? And is there a way for that deal to be revisited in a form that you would support? You have 90 seconds.
It's possible that an agreement like that could work, but how many people in here are aware that we have an agreement with that water district right now where we're paying that water district so that we can sell our own citizens water? The residents in Oak Tree get their water from the city of Edmond. They're in the city limits of Edmond, but guess what? They're in the Logan County Rural Water District #1. We have to pay that water district for us to sell our own citizens money, our water. So why did we not enter into that agreement? Maybe part of it was to put a little pressure on the water district. I mean, they need sewage services. Guess what? We need our own water for our own citizens. So there's probably some negotiating that can be done there.
Mr. Robbins, same question to you, sir.
So that's a great question, and that's exactly why when I was on council, I voted it down, because I'm always going to put Edmond first. And so that's a really important issue as far as water. When I knock doors, people want to talk to me when I say, what are the opportunities or challenges? They'll talk to me about transportation, but we're unique in our city because people will say, hey, what about this water bill? And when I got on city council, as I investigated it, I think with good intentions, previous members of council decided to embark on a water treatment upgrade for both our tap water and the water that our wastewater. Well, when that was agreed to, that was about $309 million as it was proposed and voted on. And when you're a city council, you're also a commissioner, utility commissioner. So it didn't go to a vote of the people. And so as that was put into place, the challenge has been, and I dug into this and got into the details, because my background is I'm going to get into the financial nitty and gritty and I'm going to ask the questions. And what I found was as a water project had gone from 309 to 340 to 350 to 400 to where it sits today, it's over $500 million. And so the mayor and the city manager asked to visit with me, and they said, we're going to put 5 years of rate increases in place to support this. How can we earn your vote or have your support? I said, you can't. Because clearly the people of Edmond, like I started, do not understand what's happening. We need to pause. We need to audit the process and the project. And I was the only one who brought that up as a new member of city council, and I voted no to raising your water rate increases. And I stood up for you, my Edmond citizens.
Mr. Nash, you're looking at me like you have 15 seconds requested. I'm going to give you 15 seconds and then give it back to Tom as well.
The horse was already out of the barn, folks. We had already committed to those projects when Tom voted no on the water rate increase. If he had figured out how to get enough people to say no, at what point do we default on those bonds? At what point do we wind up having a court decision, stick a property tax on each and every one of the ratepayers in Edmond to cover the cost of that project? It started before Tom got there. There was nothing we could do at that point but figure out how to get it paid for.
Thank you. 15 to you, sir.
So Mr. Nash said we need to communicate better. That was my proposal to city council. The mayor and others said no. And so that was one of the reasons why we voted no. I do not accept, I know you're putting yourself out there as the financial expert, but I do not accept financially that a project goes from $309 million to $500 million on the backs of Edmond ratepayers, and it's acceptable not to put your hand up and say, we need a performance audit, we need to look at the project. I will do that as mayor, and I will complete that as the next city council.
I want to keep us going down the road. Mr. Robbins, next question is for you. Penultimate question of the round. In January, Edmond parted ways with former city manager Scott Rigby, and each of you indicated that you had support for that decision when you posted on social media. What do you think ultimately led to that falling out? And as the Edmond City Council looks for its next city manager, what qualities would you prioritize to avoid a similar outcome?
So we met 3 different times as council to discuss it, and it was something that I wanted and requested. And the reason why is because the feedback wasn't based on if someone was a Republican or Democrat, a developer, nonprofit. The constant feedback loop was that our city manager just was unable to build basic relationships and to be able to have what was needed to represent us in the community. One of the straws that broke the camel's back for me was on uncommon ground. Over his objection, I worked with to call to put that up for a vote. And know that the mayor and the city manager said that we weren't ready. I know when we need to stop counting the quivers, or we need to stop counting the arrows in the quivers, and we need to shoot. And so he was somebody to me who I thought, hey, you don't need to be the president of the Rotary, but you got to want to go to the Rotary Club. And so we need somebody who's engageable. We need somebody who can clearly communicate and who can lead a team. I have told the members of City Council, and if I get the opportunity to serve as mayor, in addition to looking at a future assistant city manager who might be in the wings and waiting, I want to look to the private sector. My favorite boss that I ever had came out of the military. He taught me more about leadership and people and getting projects done than anyone else I'd ever met or worked for before. And so I want to open it up and make sure that we are getting the best candidate to be able to lead us as our next city manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nash. Same question to you. What do you think ultimately led to that falling out, and what would you prioritize in terms of characteristics for a city manager?
So everything I heard from day one was if it wasn't his way, it was the highway. He didn't want to listen to anybody. He wanted to do his thing. He didn't get to know anybody. That's not the way you run a city. It just got worse and worse and worse. We had the Edmond 2050 plan that was developed for East Edmond, and he came on in the middle of that. Here it is 4 years later, and we have almost nothing to show for it because Scott Rigby didn't like it. It was that simple. He didn't want to do any of that. It was obvious he needed to go, and I thank the council that finally said, let's get rid of this guy. What do we need in the future? We need someone who can not only listen to what the citizens of Edmond want, but is the kind of leader that can listen to what the city council says is the plan and go implement it. We don't need someone who can say, I'm the city manager, it's my city, I'm running it. The city council is who the city manager reports to, and we need someone who understands that and can carry on the plans that we need to make this city what it ought to be.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Matt?
Absolutely, thank you. And as we end round one, we do have another toss-up question. On Monday evening, the Edmond City Council approved a new study for the US 77 corridor along Broadway and 2nd Street, and federal grants are going to fund about 80% of the costs associated with that. And while the city's financial contributions to this will be relatively minor, it also raises the question that some members of the public have the opinion city leaders spend time and money conducting studies that ultimately result in little change. Do you believe that's a fair assessment of these types of studies? And what actionable changes would you like to see come out of the corridor study? There's 30 seconds to each of you to answer this question. Anyone can go first.
I'll grab it. Look, some of these studies are great. I disagree with some of the studies. I believe that everybody disagrees with some of the studies that we do. I think even some of the council members from time to time don't appreciate some of the things that are done. But the reality of it is when you can put up a little bit of money with a lot of federal dollars and it's looking at economic development and it's looking at ways to generate revenue, you can't just ignore it because you say it's just another study.
Mr. Robbins, 30 seconds.
So I would say that's the feedback I've received very directly is that we are very study heavy and it's time for action. I will be a mayor of action who will lead. And on day one, I believe we have within our citizens expertise that would help us to be able to study that specific corridor, to be able to understand that what we need to be able to do. And so before I would say yes to a study like that or any other, I need to stack it against the other priorities. And so instead of, $600,000 or $800,000 on a study, I think what the citizens are looking for is filling our potholes, smoothing our streets, and doing that before we pay for, an academic study of it.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, that's the end of round one. Let's give them a round of applause. I'm feeling confident about the audio. Tell me if I'm wrong. So we're going to keep going. Round two's title is Tenants, Trains, and Trash. And we're going to dive into some deeper topics related to issues facing Edmond in this round. Matt, you have another toss-up question.
That's right. The first question is, what is this community's biggest health care need facing Edmond residents right now? 60 seconds to you both. Any one of you can go first.
Well, I've talked to, for example, our largest employer is Edmond Public Schools, and our second largest employer is on the healthcare side. And when you talk to them, we're in desperate need of nursing and nursing aid and assistance. I'm really pleased with what our university has done here in Edmond. Well, technically it's in Oklahoma City, but I'll always consider them in Edmond. With, I believe it's Integris Hospital, where nursing assistants, instead of having to go back to their campus, can just after work on the Integris campus take classes to be able to move from one level to the other. The other, which is near and dear to our heart because my wife's a marriage and family therapist, is just kind of the mental health. And so we've done a lot and invested in North Care and other things, but we're always in a battle for staffing and for getting qualified folks that can address those severe acute needs in our community. And so from a healthcare standpoint, we still need to do, and I was talking to our UCO president, Todd Lamb, what can we do better to grow that program that they have as far as therapists and counseling to be able to fill the jobs that we have today within mental health in Edmond.
Mr. Nash, 60 seconds to you, sir.
The biggest challenge is healthcare staffing. We have a severe shortage of nurses, of med techs, of just name the position in healthcare, and we're short. We have traveling nurses who are just rotating around because they can make big contracts simply because everybody is so short-staffed. I've got to experience it firsthand over the last month to see how bad it is. It is a problem. We've got an incredible nursing program at UCO. Anything that we can do to promote that program and bring nursing students into our city is a huge plus, because people have a tendency to come here for school and stay. So that is one way we could really help us in that area, is just let's promote what UCO has that's so good.
Well, I saw President Lamb at the Capitol. Maybe that's what he was doing today. I'm not sure. You talked about people staying here. Housing is required for that. Matt, you've got the next question. For the next 4 questions in this round, everybody will have 2 minutes to answer each. Go ahead, Matt.
That's right. And so the first part of this question is we're taking it to Oklahoma City. That city council, they're preparing to vote on an upcoming ordinance related to ADUs, accessory dwelling units. And essentially the hope is to allow housing supply within the city to increase. It's been a contentious issue for the city council, but in 2023, Edmond city leaders were also considering an overlay district that would have authorized ADUs in certain neighborhoods. It never received a vote from the city council. What was your position on that proposal, and do you believe that the council should consider it or a similar one again? We're going to go ahead and start with Mr. Robbins.
Well, great question. When I was elected to city council, this was referred to in Edmond as a Euro. First of all, we're not Oklahoma City. And so we're Edmond, a community of choice. People live here for by choice. And so, no, we do not need to adopt everything that Oklahoma City is doing. Number two is, as the mayor, I will never cut out a step for our citizens to be able to have a voice in front of city council. And so as I looked at the overlay district, which was all in my district, residents started receiving letters about the overlay district that I wasn't even given in advance. And so I called the city staff. They said, whoops, apology. I guess we didn't loop you in on this. We already thought it was a done deal. And when I dug into it and found out that it would just basically be taking away the public hearing to streamline this, I said, absolutely not. And I remember there was a lady who reached out to me who received one of these letters right off Boulevard, and they don't have an HOA that stands up and fights for them, but they have a great neighborhood in the community. And she goes, I'm really concerned about this, Tom. I go, what are you doing right now? And she goes, well, I'm at my house. I go, well, I'm on lunch. Let's go. And I showed up with her and her husband, literally sat at their kitchen table, and we talked through this issue. And so there's changes in developing that's happening, but when that wants to happen, we're always going to give our citizens the vote. We're always going to give those neighborhoods the chance to be able to weigh in. And so I work to be able to basically get the cookies out of the oven and be able to say, well, as a member of city council, this isn't something that I approve of. I appreciate Mr. Nash. He actually wrote a really nice op-ed thanking me and the members of city council for making that decision to be able to put on the back burner and kill the Euro. But that is a decisive example of when I heard direct feedback on an issue that I had to be educated on, that I was told was working in Oklahoma City that I didn't quite think would work for Edmond. And then when I heard from residents, as a very new member of city council, I put in the work to be able to work with members of city council to make sure that they can move forward and that it wouldn't get done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nash. Same question to you, 2 minutes. Where were you on that topic?
I was opposed to the Euro. Let's talk about the reality of it. First of all, horrible name when it started because we had so many people in town that thought we were becoming European. We had to get through that. The reality of it is the entire concept was bad. Not about accessory dwelling units. Not a bad idea, to be quite honest. But the fact that you can completely bypass the planning process called Planning Commission and City Council to do this was the bad idea. And then you started reading through the regulations, and they had things like, well, you can't have a second-story balcony that faces the exterior of the property, which I think would mean that you'd have to build this skinny house with a hole in the middle with a balcony inside it if you wanted a balcony. I mean, it was bad language. There was a lot of reasons why it went down, and a lot of good people jumped in there. One of the issues that we saw was it literally split Bradford Village, the retirement community that's been part of this community for decades. It split it in half. Half was in, half was out. Made a lot of people think that, oh, guess what's getting ready to happen? The company that bought that retirement center from the Disciples of Christ Church was going to sell off part of the property so it could be redeveloped. That got a lot of people started. There was a lot of opposition to this particular proposal. Should we allow some type of accessory dwellings? Maybe so, but that was not the way to do it. Tom said it. It didn't include the people. We need to get everyone involved in this.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask a follow-up question on this. 60 seconds to either of you can start. If that's not a solution to increasing the housing supply here, I'm curious what you guys think a solution is, right? You already have talked about how a lot of people cannot afford to live in Edmond, whether if they can't find rental houses, can't afford a single-family home. I don't think apartments are super popular with a lot of people when it comes to the council. So I'm curious, is sprawl the only option? What do we do to have a better housing supply? 60 seconds to either of you.
Well, that is one part of the solution, because it's about as close to affordable as you're going to get in Edmond. Why? Because land is expensive in Edmond, let's admit it. Construction costs right now are high. When you say affordable to someone making $40,000 means one thing. If you're making $200,000, it means something else. And if you're making $500,000 a year, it means something else. So that's a scalable term. And when we're talking about it with those lower income people, sometimes that's a solution. It also lies in that same area where we need to be protecting some of those smaller houses that should be going back on the market and not torn down and have an infill where we build the same size house for 4 times the money.
And I'm sorry, you said that is part of the solution. What do you mean that? Sprawl?
No, the ADUs.
ADUs, okay.
Allowing ADUs and protecting those small homes is part of the solution.
So you think that would be good, but
Yes.
do we need to change the ordinances?
Well, not yet. We've got to do something with the ordinances because we don't allow that kind of stuff right now. And that was the problem, right? That was the problem, is we wanted to change it, but then we also wanted to totally ignore our planning commission and city council to make it happen.
Thank you. Mr. Robbins, 60 seconds.
So I was glad to be able to lead on that issue, but I also want to identify what's working. And one of the areas was in Ward 1. Turning Point Ministries has off frets during Promise Lane, has a wonderful community that has built model homes that people who haven't owned a home before, and we have 911 dispatchers in there. I'm told that we have school bus drivers, EPS, Edmond Public School employees in there, a gentleman who's working retail in town. And it's a beautiful project, and for whatever reason, when the budget came up, the little bit of money that was put towards that was significantly reduced. And so specifically, I remember working with Councilor Barry Moore and specifically fighting to get that back in there because we need to support what is working. And so when we look at housing, what I find is that a lot of times people object because, one, people come before council and there's been no neighborhood engagement. So the developer says, hi, and we say, have you met your neighbors? And they said, no, and they awkwardly do so right in front of us. That needs to stop, and it will as I'm mayor. We need to have that neighbor-to-neighbor engagement first, and that'll help prevent some of those conflicts.
I'm going to ask about homelessness because we sort of hinted at it a little bit. We've been unable to get a response on what the results of the point-in-time count were from January. I'm not sure why. Hopefully we'll get it tomorrow. But it made it a little hard to write this question. So what do you think, Mr. Nash, we'll go to you first. What do you think the extent of homelessness is in Edmond? Should residents be concerned that it might be getting more prevalent? And what can be done in terms of prevention to avoid an increase in the homeless population in this community?
Homelessness is real. And yes, it's increasing in Edmond. We've got our what we call our permanent homeless around downtown that we all know. They eat breakfast 5 days a week at Breakfast on Boulevard at First Christian. They eat lunch every Tuesday at First Methodist for a free lunch. It's a problem. But you know what? They do a good job of taking care of themselves and making sure that that core group is, quote, following their rules. Our church, a couple of other churches, took the lead a couple of years ago and took pictures of every single one of those that we could find and got names, because we were tired of hearing police officers describe them as the hatchet man and the Rasta lady, because they didn't know their names. And we sat down with the police department, showed them, and they now treat them just like they are. They're humans. I know that the problem is growing because as they start coming up Broadway, when they get run off of Broadway, they go back behind the IBC Bank on 15th Street. That's where they hang out until they get chased off there. So it is becoming an issue. It's becoming a bigger issue, and we're going to have to find more ways to help them. And we can't just run them out of town, because they're just going to come back. There's got to be a solution to help people shift. And I don't know what the answer is, because guess what? It's a national problem. It's everywhere now. Go to Oklahoma City, and guess what? It's an ugly, ugly situation in many parts of town where tents are just all over the streets. Well, we don't want that in Edmond. So we've got to figure out what we can do as a community to help people but control it all at the same time. Guess what? Once again, that's going to take a lot of communication and a lot of work with everybody in this city to make it real.
Mr. Robbins, same question to you, 2 minutes. What needs to be done?
As I look at the challenge of people that are unhoused, I always try to at least think, what if somebody I loved was in that situation? Because as we unpack it, we don't know, because we haven't walked in their shoes. Are they a veteran? Are they somebody who experienced a severe trauma or loss? A lot of times we know it's with drug or alcohol addiction or other things. There's usually co-mingling things. Historically, what has happened, we've always just dialed 911 and asked those who do so much for us to protect us to be able to just take care of that problem. On City Council, I was very proud to join the effort that had already begun, that I supported, to be able to give our community tools and actual resources to address people who have multiple issues when it comes to this challenge. One of those is North Care, which is right here in Edmond. And it gives people an opportunity, a place to go that's not in a jail cell, but a place to go where they can be assessed. The other one is the Clubhouse, which I attended their open house as well. And that is run by people that are having a challenge being able to hold a job, that might be somewhat unhoused or might have mental health issues, where they're able to go every day to set their own agenda, to be able to have authority about what's going on. And I see so many nonprofits and so many people and so many churches in our community. So I am encouraged that we're able to go down a path where we're not just putting it on our police officers and our first responders and saying, take care of it, but we're doing it collectively. And so as your mayor, I'll seek to be able to address solutions that'll bring us all to the table, because at that table could definitely be somebody who we care about, a neighbor or a loved one. And I think we're headed in the right direction, and I'm grateful for the investments that we've made on this city council that I was a part of.
I want to ask you guys a hand raised yes or no follow-up. It sounds like we don't know exactly what to do. It sounds like you want to bring people to the table. Does there need to be some sort of task force in Edmond to examine this issue and make recommendations? Is there a body that already exists to that? Yes or no, if you think there needs to be a study to that?
No, again, on the default to the study, I think we have great organizations and people that are already working on that. Our chief, J.D. Younger, has been very clear in that. This isn't a policing issue, it's a community holistic issue. And my understanding is that we already have many people, of which we're a part of, that are addressing this on a regular basis, which is why we're able to get North Care and do those types of things. And it's working. My friend Joe Tribbett called me late at night. He said, look, somebody's about to get kicked out of a gas station where they've been. They obviously have some mental health or addiction issue. What can we do? I was able to connect them with North Care, and they were able to get them over there to be able to get services. That's a totally different scenario than just 9 months ago that would have happened in Edmond, Oklahoma.
Mr. Nash. Do we need a task force, some sort of body to examine this and make recommendations?
We've already got that going on. We've got the churches in Edmond already working with our police department for helping find solutions, working with the Hope Center. We've already got that. Do we need another task force? No. We need to take advantage of what's going on right now and get more people involved in those efforts.
Thank you very much. It's always good to campaign against 10 new task forces. Matt, you have the next question for Mr. Robbins.
That's right. So in the debate that we did for the primary election in this race, we asked about another proposal that's turned a lot of heads for a commuter rail line connecting Norman, Edmond, and Oklahoma City with a separate line going to and from the Oklahoma City airport. Mr. Robbins, you were fairly vocal about not wanting to designate a new sales tax percentage to transit when other city needs exist. Mr. Nash, you were more open to the idea but still cautious. Mr. Robbins, we'll start with you. What conversations have you had about the RTA commuter and airport rail proposal since that February debate? And do you see any pathway to making this work for Edmond residents and the metro as a whole, or do you remain opposed to it based on sales tax requirements? You have 2 minutes.
So let me tell you what I'm for. I'm for dedicated funding for our streets, our traffic, our congestion, and filling our potholes. Literally today, the Robbins family minivan has its second tire with a flat. Like, I just filled it up last night. So we're all paying for roads. We're fixing them. It's just through our family budgets. And so when it comes to the Regional Transit Authority, it's a good thing. It's an interesting thing to think about. But there are over $180 million in just known road projects today. And so my priority, day one, that I have a plan, because you get sworn in, you have 2 meetings, you got to pass a budget, is I will double the amount that we are spending and making it a priority. Right now it's about $4.2 million. I will bring that with designated savings that I've already found in our budget that are available to bring that up to over $9 million. And so
Please hold applause.
I know that the priority for our citizens, because I'm on their doorsteps, is transportation. And Mr. Nash, I appreciate that he holds himself up as, a financial person who, is the best person to solve the budget and stuff. Tell me a system like that who doesn't always need more money, that doesn't always need more federal assistance. If we can't pay for our roads now is not the time to go to our citizens and say, will you give me tens upon tens of millions of dollars of dedicated funding? I also know that the county commissioners are going to come to us and ask for a sales tax increase to be able to have public safety, which is very important, and to be able to not just fund a new jail, but to be able to staff it. And so, no, the math does not work. I've sat down with the leaders of RTA, and at a minimum they want 0.75% sales tax increase. It'll take us from 8.25 to 9%, at which point I will get kicked out of every small business of Edmond, and rightfully so. Because if we ladle that on with a public safety tax increase, we're looking at 10% in taxes. So no, the math doesn't work. It's a good idea, but I'm going to fill our potholes first.
And thank you, Mr. Robbins, and we'll address public safety more in depth later on, the exact issue that you brought up. But Mr. Nash, I wanted to redirect it to you. Same question. Have you had any new conversations that have made you more in favor or less in favor of the commuter rail proposal?
I am still where I was at the last debate because I have not sat down with anybody from RTA. I have not had an in-depth explanation of it. I have heard an overview, and yes, they're talking about 0.75 cents on the sales tax. We've got a big problem here. It's called the finances of this city. I don't know how Tom can stand up here and say he's going to double the street revenue when we're struggling to get what we're getting today. Until we can untangle the financial picture and we know where the money is sitting in a way that not only the accountants can see it, but also the city council, but also the citizens. Because we're going to have tax votes come up, not just RTA, not just the county jail, but we've got 2 sales tax pieces coming up in 2027. And we've got to know exactly where we are today so that we quit eating into our reserves to get through. I mean, yeah, we can go throw $9 million at roads next year, and guess what's going to happen? We're using $9 million more worth of reserves. When are we going to run out? Very quickly. We've got to understand where we are today, before we can talk about tomorrow. And that's why I have sat back and said, I don't want to push the issue on the RTA until I can literally sit down and look at the whole package. I mean, there may be some things in there that work for us, that save us money, and then it's worth it. I don't know yet. But what I do know is that we need to attack the root cause now, which is the financial picture and how we understand it, how we address it. It is a situation that's grown over 100 years, the way we look at it. It's not anybody's fault, it's just reality. It starts right there.
I can't wait for Blake Douglas to examine 100 years of city finances. Mr. Robbins, you wanted 15 more
Please
seconds.
hold our
No,
applause.
I mean, we should dwell on this. First of all, I'm very confused why he's saying he hasn't had an in-depth sort of briefing on the RTA. All their meetings are public. He has the same access to the documents that I have. He's literally on a text messaging chain with our representative of RTA with me. He can ask any questions. He can take the time. He's been asked at every debate. He's been asked by every newspaper. He's been asked at every forum. He doesn't have an answer because he doesn't want to give the answer, which is we cannot afford it. I will not raise Edmond taxes to build a new transportation system when we cannot fill our potholes, we cannot fix our streets. How are we going to double it? I've already looked in the budget. And I can talk, but my time is done, but I'll specifically talk later how we'll get that.
Thank you. Mr. Nash, 15 seconds.
So why do I not know the answer? Because I've been out campaigning, and I have a full-time job that I still have to run a business with.
Me too.
You know, it is tough, I get it, but you know what? When the time is right, I will sit down, and I will listen. But that's more than a 15-minute conversation with people.
Thank you very much. I've got the last question of this round, and we're speaking of revenue. The City of Edmond is currently conducting a review of its waste management services, and in the past, there's been some public criticism of Edmond's use of a waste transfer station, where city trucks take certain garbage to a corporate middleman for transport back south instead of hauling the trash directly to the landfill themselves. And so, you know, city employees have previously stated that Edmond could maybe save some money by operating the entire traffic service itself and cutting out that middleman. If elected, would you favor continuing the transfer station contract, or would you encourage the city to haul its trash directly to the dump? Mr. Nash, to you.
I would immediately say, if asked the question, I would immediately say, we need to analyze what's happening. We need to understand what's in that contract. We need to understand what it costs us. We need to understand what it would cost if we ran it ourselves. Just jumping in and saying, no, I don't like the contract, without doing the full analysis, without having it at your fingertips, being able to ask both sides the questions, is irresponsible. So I can tell you that I personally think, yeah, we could probably do a better job, because anytime you outsource, someone's making money. Government's not here to make money. Government is here to provide services for us. And so if we outsource it, that means a private contractor is making a profit. So yeah, there is some money sitting there. But you want to look at all of it and see what it really takes, because is the risk too great? Do we not want to mess with having to deal with the other communities that are bringing their waste to us? There are all kinds of questions that have to be explored. There are all kinds of questions that need to be asked and answered. You need to look at the financial numbers, and you need to say, this is the path forward once you have all the information.
Mr. Robbins, I know you've talked about this when you were on the city council. What is your position?
Well, I'm also campaigning. I also have a job. I also have a family. My wife also works, but I'll also dedicate the time necessary to do it. I will not have paralysis by analysis. I will act as your mayor. When I have looked at this issue, it's very simple. Departments in general want to grow because they believe in their mission. But as a mayor and a city council, you have to set financial priorities for the city. If not, then you'll have to be just led around the circle. And so in this regard, this is what I know, is that the waste folks came to city council and their reserve of about $8 to $9 million. I said, well, what's that reserve for? And they came back and said, well, we'll tell you. What we want to do is we want to improve our fleet services. Well, what does that mean? Well, we want to have a car wash. I thought for a second and said, well, it'd be nice to have one on site, but I think we have more than one of those in Edmond that perhaps we could contract with and get some good rates on. They said, well, we want to improve our kind of mechanic services on site. Okay, we want a canopy or a better canopy for our cars. All right, and they can even show me with what they wanted to do, the rate of return in years ahead. The challenge is, I know that the number one priority is fixing your streets, filling your potholes, and getting where you need to go safely so that family budgets don't need to be paying for new tires, that the city of Edmond is prioritizing it. So I stood up when they were going to approve the plot plan to change it, to be able to make for those changes, and I voted against it. I remember the mayor said, Tom, why are you voting against that? I said, well, I don't want this to happen because that's not my priority. But he goes, yeah, but this is just like a zoning plot change. We'll vote on that later. I go, no, I want to tell and be very clear right now to that department that I'm going to take those dollars, which are the dollars I'm going to get, and I'm going to immediately, in the budget, when I'm mayor, prioritize fixing your streets, filling your potholes, and taking care of traffic by immediately doubling the pitiful amount of $4.2 million that is being spent on doing that today. And I will do that by just telling a department, I get it that you want it, but the citizens have told me the priority, and I'm elected on the citizens to execute that priority. Let's go fix the streets.
So just to be clear, you think the best financial option is to retain the current contract with the transfer station?
It's not for them to retain the dollars to be able to buy it. It's for us to be able to go out and to be able to fix our streets.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of round two. Give them a round of applause. And our final round tonight is titled, The Law is for Protection of the People. Rest in peace, Chris Christopherson. Okay, for the next two questions of this round, you'll each have 90 seconds to answer. For all questions in this round, you'll each have 90 seconds to answer. Matt, go ahead.
That's right, Mr. Robbins, we're going to start with you. What do you believe that the Edmond Police Department is doing well for this community, and what do you believe that the department can do better? You have 90 seconds to answer.
Well, thank you. I'm proud and honored to have the support of the Edmond Fraternal Order of Police, to have the Firefighters Association, to have our Oklahoma County Sheriff, Tommy Johnson. The reason why is I didn't just walk by and ask for an endorsement when I was running for city council. I've worked with them to be able to make sure that they have the training that they need. And so cutting their budget or modifying their budget is not on the table. As you saw this last week or last 2 weeks with wildfires, we were able to not only take care of our own here in Edmond, but to go to the aid and the rescue of others around us. I'll tell you, there's a contrasting difference. We took at Rolling Green Apartments. I look at that as something that was going on with like the OIO Hotel, where we had an out-of-state, unaccountable, derelict owner of that, and I was able to work with our police who were doing dozens and dozens of calls there to completely turn it around. And so one of the things that I do is I recognize the work that the police do. My opponent said, he said, well, it's not high crime that's happening, and he was literally standing where somebody was murdered. It's high call volume. I call crime what it is. Then he went on and insulted the police and said, well, they should be walking around and building actual relationships. They made over 300 relationship contacts in the last 6 months. Our police officers are out there building the relationships with the community, particularly that apartment complex. What they need is a mayor who understands what actual crime is and has a plan to address it, and I'll do that as your mayor.
Just real quick, though, what is something that do you think the police department could be doing anything better? Is there anything you'd like them to see to prioritize?
As far as being able to prioritize, I think we're doing a great job, actually. I think our police and fire, we're the best equipped, we're the best trained. Our police chief got the chief of the year in Oklahoma last year, and I think there's a lot that we can be proud of, and there isn't something that sticks out to me that needs my immediate attention.
Mr. Nash, I'll give you 2 minutes because I gave him a little extra time. Go ahead,
All right.
sir.
So, what do I think the police could be doing better?
Yes, sir.
Well, Tom just answered it for you. Community policing. We used to do a really good job with community policing in this city. And it has fallen off over the last, 5, 6, 8 years. What I was talking about at Rolling Greens was simply doing what police officers told me they wanted. They said that when they had investigated crimes in that complex, that if they took the time to actually talk to those kids, one of the detectives even said he played hopscotch with them, and that those kids started talking. That's what community policing is about. It's not about going out and talking to people. It's about creating relationships that help police do their job, because then the public is not afraid to call them. And yes, let's get it very clear. Rolling Green Apartments is what is considered a high call volume area. I checked with the police department, and that's what they call it. It's no different than several other apartment complexes we have in town. The number was not 300 over 6 months, it was a little over 200. But that is all emergency calls, and think about the density of the population in that area. We can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. What we can do is help those people. Something else we could do is we could get our police department re-engaged with the district attorney and the highway patrol and the other law enforcement agencies in the state to do what we used to do for that particular apartment complex and do warrant sweeps, where all of a sudden you show up with every law enforcement department in the county and you start pulling those warrants out on people and hauling them off. When you do that, the bad apples don't want to come back. That lets the people who want to live there have something that they can do to actually protect themselves, protect their kids. They want to be here because they want to have their kids in our schools. Let's help them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nash. I've got this next question for you, 90 seconds. 15 seconds, but that's for dinner time.
That's the biggest contrast probably between me and my opponent. I've never seen somebody say something so insulting to our police. 260 emergency calls to that location, 300 community contacts in the last 6 months. They're out there working with the people. What they need is a mayor who will draw the out-of-state landlord, which is a family trust out of Lampe, Maryland, who couldn't find Edmond on a map, in front of city council to be accounted for how they're taking advantage of the taxpayers, sending our police officers there and our firefighters there, where things are happening like rape, murder, sexual assault, and battery. It's not high call volume, it's high crime, and our police are doing an excellent job, and I will not allow them to be defamed when I'm mayor.
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to follow up. Let's not have a fight.
All right. Well, Tom, there you go again. Look, you're sitting here beating people up about those numbers. The reality of it is that we're trying to help people. We're trying to come up with a way to help people help themselves. And to make it sound like I'm bashing our law enforcement is an insult to me. Coming from a law enforcement family, I am insulted. And every police officer that I know should be insulted for me.
Thank you very much.
I want to stay on this because I think it's the biggest contrast.
10 seconds.
All right.
All right, they say no, let's keep going. We got 3 more questions. We can insult each other. So, all right, Mr. Nash, I'm going to start with you on this. When the Department of Justice issued its December report on the intersection of law enforcement and mental health crisis response in Oklahoma County, it included a recommendation for the creation of, quote, behavioral health mobile response teams that could handle some calls where police may not be needed. I'm curious, what conversations have you had with Chief J.D. Younger or others about this idea, and do you think this community needs behavioral health mobile response teams? 90 seconds to you, sir.
While I have not talked to our police chief, I have had the conversation with multiple people. It is a brilliant idea because it actually reduces the cost of public safety. It reduces the risk to the entire city if we have trained mental health professionals responding in appropriate situations. If we had had something like that back when we had the incident when the gentleman had the psychotic break and lit his carpet on fire on his front porch and wound up getting shot, perhaps that could have been avoided if the right responders had been able to show up. We already knew in this city that that gentleman had those problems. There had been multiple calls, multiple times that law enforcement had been out there. So having teams like that is a great idea. Now, of course, then we got to figure out how to fund them. So that's going to be the challenge.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robbins. 90 seconds to you. Do you believe we need behavioral health mobile crisis response teams?
Yeah, those are great tools so that we don't just have to rely on what we have. And we've done that in many ways with North Care. I know that I have talked to our police chief, and I know that they've developed programs to be able to deploy mental health. And they're getting feedback on that and are continuing to work on that. We have North Care in that area, and so we're a part of it. I do know that the specific report that you mentioned and referenced is going to be, if it hasn't already, is going to be in front of the Community Policing Board, and that will give our citizens an opportunity to be able to come, to be able to give comment, to be able to ask questions, to be able to tell their personal examples, and our chief is very serious about that process of having citizen input, having officers there, and having other people in the community. Because holistically, it's not something that can be solved by the police. It has to be addressed by our community.
Thank you very much. Matt, you've got the next question, and I have an error on the script. I think this should start with Mr. Robbins.
Okay, and it's actually on the subject of the Community Policing Board. It's given its input on a potential pilot program to place cameras for policing at public events around Edmond. Chief Younger has cited other Oklahoma communities that have flock safety cameras in public spaces and their utility in deterring and solving crimes. And the department has also budgeted for a mobile camera trailer that the department can use at events to act as a force multiplier. However, he has also acknowledged some citizens have concerns about privacy, how long data is kept, and who has access to that data. The question is, do you support expansion of police cameras in public spaces, and are you comfortable with an indefinite number of law enforcement agencies around the country having access to the information from flock safety integration? We're starting with Mr. Robbins.
So I've been to multiple presentations by this, and we have a commitment to be able to keep our citizens safe, while also having a commitment of transparency and openness. And I appreciate our chief on every step of the way being transparent and going to the city council. You know, we had a murder at the very beginning of the year, and if I'm correct, it was part of the flock cameras that were engaged to be able to track that individual. You look at some of what we're able to do now, for example, is that if you have in something like Herd on Herd, if you have somebody who is doing something nefarious like going from car to car and jiggling it like that, you know, trying to get into a car to be able to steal somebody's property or money or break in or do those type of things, we have the technology that just says, hey, just go look over there, right? Because if you have one of our police officers who's distracted and talking to something, if they get alert and says, hey, just go check out this area. So I think we've done it right in the city of Edmond, is that we've had full engagement with our Community and Police Board. We've had the full engagement of our chief. He's been accountable and coming to city council, so I'm comfortable where that's at. I've seen it applied to specific scenarios in Edmond where we've been able to catch some really bad guys, but we always need to be aware of just kind of the public freedom and what that represents. And so I'm comfortable where it's at and look forward to working with our police chief, working with our Citizens Police Board, our members of council, and hosting a town hall and getting that information that we need on that.
And Mr. Nash, same question to you, sir. Do you support the expansion of police cameras in public spaces, and your thoughts on the potential ramifications of that expansion if it happens? You have 90 seconds.
So, I think another part of it was concern about privacy. And let's start with the privacy piece and work our way backwards, because privacy is a concern for a lot of people. But guess what? You're on camera. Everywhere you go, you're on camera today. The nice thing about it is right now today is that many of these systems are designed so that you can't tell what someone looks like. The traffic control cameras you see around town that control the intersections, they're intentionally blurred so that you can't see who people are. That is an industry standard. When I worked at Pelco, we had to go through that issue to make sure that the stuff we were testing wasn't going to infringe on people's privacy. The flock cameras, when they're set up right, they're literally low enough that guess what they're hitting? They're hitting license plates. They're not looking into the cars. So when it's done correctly, it works. And with the mobile camera units like the police department has in their budget for next year, I think it is a great way to help with crowd control, because you don't need as many officers in one place at one time. So there's a lot of potential, and yes, people are thinking about privacy as they do it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nash. Final question of the night. I'll start with you, 90 seconds. Mr. Robbins mentioned it earlier that Oklahoma County Commissioners are trying to fill a massive funding gap for building a new county jail, and they also are hoping to find a way to increase funding for its operations. Unlike most counties, Oklahoma County does not have a dedicated sales tax for a jail or for public safety services. Of course, a new county sales tax would complicate the politics of convincing Edmond residents to renew expiring sales taxes in the city, and creating a new Edmond sales tax percentage for road improvements or other projects would seemingly become even more difficult. So the question is, we all want a safe and secure county jail. If you become mayor, would you support the potential sales tax for county jail operations, or would you oppose it on the grounds that it might make things harder for municipalities like Edmond? 90 seconds.
That may be the toughest question of the night.
There you go.
Really and truly, because when we talk about jails, when we talk about incarcerating people, we're talking about keeping us safe. And when we don't do the right things to make sure that we have those facilities, the courts get involved. And when the courts get involved, guess what they do? They put a property tax on you. So we're going to look at it one way or another with the county jail. We can say no, the county can say no as a whole, and it may still happen to us. So, as I said, being from a law enforcement family, having worked for the Department of Public Safety, having staffed the Senate, public safety and transportation agencies while I worked for the state, this is one of the toughest issues that we're going to be faced with, because it is going to butt up against our need to renew our sales tax in 2027. I'm about putting it out there and hearing what everybody has to say, because there is no win, there is no lose, because we can't lose. Because if we lose, guess what? We're in trouble.
Thank you very much. Mr. Robbins, 90 seconds to you. If you become mayor, would you support the potential sales tax for county jail operations, or would you oppose it on the grounds it might make things harder for Edmond?
I think we're not at a point where we'll specifically get a sales tax. That would be, the recent one that I heard from Commissioner Miles Davis is that they're potentially looking at a sin tax specifically on certain items to be able to pay for it. And so we definitely need, because if we don't build a jail that works for Oklahoma County, that's staffed and has appropriate mental health support, we are going to be forced by the federal government that everyone is going to have a property tax laid upon them. So we need to choose our own destiny in this. And so we can't just be looking at it with our county commissioners and just pray that they figure it out and then come to the table. As your mayor, I'll be actively involved in those decisions, you know, and I'll have the opportunity to be able to bring back what the council is thinking, to be able to come up with exactly what is the right solution of how is that funded, where is it funded, and what source is it. It hasn't been determined yet, but I do know that, again, that's going to be a priority over bringing trains to our city versus filling our potholes. I know what the priorities are. It's potholes and public safety, right? So I know what I can say no to right now, but then I need to also be able to determine what we can do collectively as an entire Oklahoma County on public safety as far as that funding.
Thank you very much. Let's give them all a round of applause. That's the end of round 3. I never applaud for anybody, so I guess you guys have done a good job. We're going to go to closing statements, 2 minutes each, same order. Mr. Nash, 2 minutes to you, sir, to close us out.
As I said at the beginning, I got into this race because I was opposed to the GO bond issue. Bad idea, too much money, too fast. I was against it. If you've got the skills, if you've got the experience, if you've got the ability to help solve the problem after that tax goes down to defeat, you better be willing to step up. I did that. I have the experience. I'm a process improvement expert today with a government finance background. That's a rare combination. We've got a very unique opportunity this election cycle with this particular race, because our 2 new councilmen coming on both have financial backgrounds. That would put 3 people with financial backgrounds on our city council for the first time ever to help figure out how we return the trust that we seem to have lost with the public about our finances. Look, municipal government, the way they budget, is the same problem nationwide. When you're a town and you write a charter, like we did 100 years ago, you say, we got to have a budget. They look at the bookkeeper and say, what does it look like? You hold it up and they say, there it is. Great, that's what we'll do this year. Then the next year they say, hey, Jim came to town. I'm gonna increase the budget 1%. 100 years later, we're not using the bookkeeper's books, we're using the accountant's worksheets. That's why it looks the way it looks. And with Phil and Preston and myself on the council, with Barry Moore's knowledge of government finance, having worked at the Capitol for decades, we have a rare opportunity to create a budget and control system that everybody can understand. So I ask for your vote on April 1st.
Thank you very much. 2 minutes, sir, to close it out.
It's been my honor to serve you as on city council. I just want to mention one thing. Mr. Phil Frame has repeatedly asked Mr. Nash not to use his name. He has my campaign sign. And he has said that he doesn't want to scare the citizens of Edmond like Mr. Nash does, just throwing out numbers without context. And so I'd appreciate it if you would stop using him in your campaign. Number two would be is you saw me get passionate about the crime issue here in Edmond. And it's kind of indicative of what and how I do things. So I got alerted that there was a massage parlor, a illegal massage parlor in my district. So I went, we got it shut down, but I wanted to figure out why. I held a town hall. I was the only member of city council to hold town halls. I'll do so as your mayor. As I did so, what I found out is that the city of Edmond does not have the opportunity to be able to do basic zoning or to ask for a business license so we can verify that these people are who they say they are, which is why we have over 24/7 illicit massage parlors in our town. At that town hall, I met an Edmond citizen, and she came forward and told me a story about how she was assaulted at a massage place because, again, we didn't have the right thing set up. So I went and took action. I had Senator Kristen Thompson write a bill on my behalf, and yesterday it passed off the Senate floor. Before she did so, she said, I want to call you and thank you, and I'm going to thank you on the Senate floor. And when I'm mayor of Edmond, Oklahoma, we will no longer have 24/7 illicit massage parlors in this town with people being trafficked, with money being laundered, with flickering lights, and we'll have zoning control over it. So when I say that I'm serious about following up with citizens and finding a solution, I'm dead serious. I will take those issues seriously, and I look forward to serving as your next mayor.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Election day is April 1st. That concludes our debate tonight. Thank you to the candidates, the KickingBird folks, the Lookout folks. Tip well. It shows that you have a little bit of class. And I want to thank AARP Oklahoma, the Scholar Strategy Network, and the Urban Land Institute for your support of public debates. Again, election night is April 1st. Have a great night. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Thank you.